part of today's event. I'm real excited about being able to share some of my story and some of my daughter's story with everyone who's assembled here today. And, you know, when Myrna asked me to do a masterclass, I thought I was going to do it on PR. And then she said, no, I mean, you really, there's an art to what you do as a parent of a mother of a child with disabilities and still be able to balance the things that you've been doing all these years. And I said, okay, well, that's actually a little easier. I can just talk about my life. And so that's what this is all about. And, you know, I'm hoping at the end of this that I hopefully encourage some parents or anyone actually to not give up on their dreams, because, you know, things may not come when you want it, but that doesn't mean they don't come. And that's has been my experience as I was raising my daughter, Sierra, who is now 32 years old. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on the presentation, and then hopefully we'll have some questions afterwards, and you know, we'll be able to have a quick discussion about anything that you might want to ask me. So go ahead, Gary, let's start the presentation. Okay, so this is called Tapping into Your Unstoppable, Parenting Children with Special Needs and How to Still Achieve Your Dreams. And that's pretty much what I think I've been able to do, is to tap into my unstoppable. And, you know, people keep telling me they don't know how I do what I do. And many times, sometimes I don't either. It's just, I just do it because it has to be done. You know, when I found out Sierra was going to have special needs when she was 9 months old is when we were given the diagnosis after, you know, realizing after about 4 months that she wasn't really developing the way I saw other children developing who were around her same age. And, you know, I had to make a decision when they told me at 9 months old that, okay, your daughter may not possibly ever be able to do things that other children will be able to do. You'll probably have to take care of her the rest of your life. And, you know, that was at 9 months. At 12 months, they gave us the actual diagnosis, which was microencephaly, which is a small brain. And, you know, I didn't believe anything they said. I said, we'll see what God does, basically. And, you know, we started therapies at 9 months old, and we started doing what we needed to do to help maximize her potential, whatever that took. And basically, she is doing a lot more than they said she would ever really do. You know, she does not talk. She can say a few words. She doesn't have the comprehension of somebody of 32 years old, but she's really has a high comprehension level. And she knows what she wants and what she doesn't want. And she is someone who actually has helped me to become a better me. Let me do the next slide. And, you know, you have to have a why to be able to do the things that you do in life, whether it's parenting or anything that drives you to move forward and to push yourself above what you thought you could possibly ever do. And Sierra has been that for me. If it wasn't for Sierra, I know for a fact I wouldn't be doing half of what I'm doing now. So yeah, she is my muse, she's my motivation, she's my raison d'etre. And you know, with her being born with cerebral palsy, that was certainly not a plan of mine. That was something that, you know, I was one of those mothers who, you know, read up on everything having to do with having my first child and, you know, what to do when you're expecting. I thought I was prepared. And to tell you the truth, one of my biggest fears was having a child with disabilities, because I didn't think I'd be able to handle it. I didn't think I had it in me to do what would needed to be done to take care of a child with special needs. And that's exactly what I got. So God had other plans. And that's what they said, life happens to you when you're making plans. Life just happens. But you know, I'm thankful. I am so thankful that she came into my life, because she showed me how to look at life differently, how to experience life differently. and how to empathize with people in the same situation, whether you're a parent of a child like Sierra, and especially now that she's become an adult, how to help maximize the opportunities that are out there and help to enhance the quality of life for parents and for people like my daughter, Sierra. And that has become my mission in the areas, and I'm trying to fulfill that mission in the areas that I have some passion and expertise in. And so I use my background as a journalist and as a public relations consultant, and more recently becoming a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, just to be able to share the information with companies that can support this community. They're not really doing it as much as they should. And my goal is to, that they're inclusive in certain areas when it comes to ethnic minorities, African American, Hispanics, things like that. Gay and lesbian community is another one that's definitely been more included than they have in the past. But when it comes to people with disabilities, that is still an untapped opportunity that companies are just starting to realize the value. And so we're trying to make a difference in that area from a marketing standpoint, marketing communication standpoint. That's part of what I do as a consultant. And even with being a part of the SHOWAbility board, that's what we're trying to do is help to break down some of the barriers that people tend to put up, and sometimes unknowingly, that stop people like my daughter from enjoying their lives. I just came back from Las Vegas, and we were, staying at one of the hotels on the Strip, and I now have to write an article about what that was like. And as many senior citizens that they have coming to do to enjoy Las Vegas, because I saw a lot of people in wheelchairs there, but there were some accessibility issues that I ran into trying to take my daughter around, the Strip and just getting around a little bit. Because if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you know that you can only walk a certain amount of distance before you have to go up over an overpass. And the only way to go up to the overpass is through the escalator and elevator or take the steps. There was more than one occasion where the elevators were not working. And so I couldn't get to the other side of what I was trying to see. And so I had to turn around. And so now, and that happened twice while I was there. And they're supposed to be fully open now. So those kinds of things, I probably would not have noticed that if it wasn't for Sierra. But now I'm saying, and even if it wasn't somebody who was in a wheelchair, if you're a senior citizen, going up 3 flights of stairs can be challenging. So there's some things that, she's helped me to open up my eyes to and make sure that companies recognize that they have to fix these types of things. So, now I'm writing an article about that experience, traveling with my daughter and letting people know that that's not acceptable. And so, again, she is the reason why I'm even as tuned in to some of the challenges parents like myself are facing. And because of that, I'm hoping to make some differences in my lifetime, and hopefully, make some changes where necessary, if at all possible, at least by bringing awareness to some of the challenges families like myself face. It'll help make some changes that are necessary. So the next slide, please. So this says that every second brings a fresh beginning. Every hour holds a new promise. Every night our dreams can bring hope, and every day is what you choose to make it. And for me, faith has been a big part of this journey, finding what my passion was, and in finding that passion, how to turn it into my purpose. And my passion became generating awareness about the issues that families like myself faced. And so and bringing more media attention to certain things that companies weren't paying attention to and media wasn't paying attention to. It bothered me that they can write stories, 100 stories a day about somebody being killed, but very few stories are being covered about what was going on in the disability community. And so it's starting to change. But as she was growing up, there was very few articles and attention paid to certain things, unless it was a tragedy, then you'll hear a lot about it. But you know, if it was just great information, positive information, you didn't really hear a lot about it. And so that was part of why I started my radio show. And back in 2009, I started a show called Exceptional People. It has transitioned now into some other things, but still the focus is sharing information on the disability community. And, you know, like I said, in this passage right here, one of my favorite passages in the Bible is from Isaiah 61:3. Is to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. And that's one of the things I had to do and recognize that despite the fact that my daughter had disabilities and wasn't going to be a typical child and, you know, wasn't going to be able to do a lot of things I was hoping she'd be able to do as she grew up, you know, I felt I was able to feel guided in my faith, in that I was able to stand strong and just do what I had to do for her. I'm not saying it was easy because I didn't have help. It was just me, Sierra, and her dad. All our family was up north. And, you know, I had a pretty demanding job as a public relations professional. At the time, I was with ABEL2 Inc. And I was blessed that they were very supportive of me. And having a child like Cece, they told me, whatever you need to do, just let us know. And I had to take off work 2 days a week to take her to therapy. And they didn't have a problem with that. I was very blessed. It was a small company, but you know, they were very supportive, which is something that you don't see very often. And so I was blessed that I had those kinds of bosses. And executive VP of marketing, you know, he came to me personally and said, just let us know whatever you need, we're there for you. And that was a blessing when she was a brand new baby. And I was there up until I think she turned 2 when the company moved to Miami. And we had just bought a house, so I didn't move with them. But the point is, they were there in those first couple of years when she was, you know, growing up, and we needed to start the therapies and all those kind of things. But a lot of companies don't like you taking that kind of time away. I ended up leaving corporate America so that I can have the flexibility to take care of her, because I was doing a lot of traveling, and you know, I didn't feel like I was spending enough time with her. So I had to leave corporate America. So that was a big change for us as a family, because at the time I was the breadwinner. I mean, my husband made good money, but I made more money. And so that was a big adjustment for us. And I became a, you know, one income household. And in doing so, although I didn't realize it then, you know, I came out of corporate America, oh God, it's been over 20 years now, but I didn't think it was anything that would interfere with my self-esteem, but it did. I started to, because everything I did was a, you know, Sierra was the center of everything I did. So I was pretty much working towards maximizing her potential, whatever that took, and making sure she had her therapy appointments and doing whatever we did, speech therapies and all the different therapies. And, you know, some things worked, some things didn't. But as a result, I had the opportunity to meet so many amazing people in the community. You know, the legislators, the activists, you know, other parents like myself. You know, if it wasn't for people who were caregivers of Sierra, people who have also been going through their own challenges with their children, there's a lot of things that I would not have been able to do. I mean, they shared with me information that wasn't coming to me from some of the resources that were supposed to have been out there. It's a strange thing, but you know, I've found that even today, a lot of the information that gets shared about things that you might need tends to come from another mother who's going through the same thing. Not necessarily from all the organizations that are out here. It's a straight, I don't know why that is, but there's certain things that just comes from that peer group of people that can share the information that you need. So I'm hoping that changes, but we're just going to keep it in prayer that it does change. But I'm thankful for those people who have shared great information with me about what I needed for Sierra. I found out about respite care. Sierra was 14 years old when I found out about respite care. I didn't know I could get respite care. There were so many things I found out about, the Depo-Provera shot that keeps her from getting her cycle. Again, she was 14 years old, but I found that from other mothers. And so, but there are all these organizations. So that's one of the things that, I'm trying to help get a better handle on and help with the grassroots communications and connection of some of these organizations. There's a gap there. They exist. These organizations exist, but a lot of parents are still not getting the information they need. And so that's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm hoping, through what we're trying to do with SHOWAbility and, just me as a journalist, we'll be able to make some inroads in that area. Okay, next slide. So one of the things that I had to come to terms with was feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I was terrified about what I would be able to do. Again, I told you that having a child with disability is something that I really prayed would not happen to me. And once it did, I had no idea what I was going to do. And, but I'm one of those people, I read a lot of books and I do a lot of research and I do what I need to do. And that's what I had to do. I just decided that no matter what it took, we're going to make this thing happen. And, I don't know, sometimes some families and some parents feel guilt. I went through a period of guilt. It's like, what did I do wrong? I thought I did everything right. What could I have possibly done? There's nothing I could have done. I mean, obviously, there was not enough oxygen in the delivery process. That was part of why she ended up with some of the challenges that and I carried small. I don't know, things happen, but I had to learn to forgive myself from possibly being a cause of her being born the way she was born, and not feel guilty about it. And so that's why I said, give yourself a break. It's okay not to know what to do every moment. Because I'm a journalist, because research is important, I do a lot of research. There were many times where, I just had to pray and ask God to help me get through certain things. When Sierra was young, she used to get a lot of seizures, and I didn't know how to handle those seizures. By the grace of God, she doesn't have them anymore. But that was a period of time where, we had to really manage that whole process, and she was on medication. And that was, we got through that, and she's not on medication for it right now. So that was a blessing, but, she's 32 now. So I'm hoping that as she ages, we don't go into a whole nother set of situations. We're blessed. I'm blessed in that, she's not medically fragile, even though she doesn't walk. She walks, if you walk, you hold her hand, she can do a few steps. She's mostly a wheelchair user. And she, she's very determined, and she's a happy child, which is my primary goal, is to keep her, in that space of joy and enjoying her life. And one of the things that I learned along this journey is that if I didn't enjoy the journey, she wasn't going to enjoy the journey. And so I had to make sure that I became someone who I wanted to be. And there was a period of time when I lost myself in the process. I lost my identity. I lost my ambition. I lost my drive. I still don't know why, but I lost me. And I had to find myself again. I had to find who I was and who I wanted to be, because I've always been that person who, wanted to accomplish a lot out of life. But I, because I was focused so much on Cece, I forgot about anything that it was that I wanted to do. and I just stopped. And it actually wasn't until my husband passed away, after we were married 25 years. It'll be 12 years that he's been gone this coming August. It wasn't until he passed away and I became a single mother that I realized that I had lost myself. I didn't even realize I had lost myself until he was gone. It was just me and Cece and my stepson, Stephen Jr., who was a grown man at this point. And I had to start over. And I had to realize, okay, where do you begin? Where do you begin with your life again? And at that time, when this happened, I was 50. And so, this is where the rubber meets the road, and I had to find who I was again and what I wanted to be. I had to dig up those old dreams again. And so that's where, in feeling the fear and doing it anyway, this is where it began, is, when I was by myself trying to raise Cece. It's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? And at that point, Sierra was pretty much an adult, but she was, again, I was her primary caregiver, and so I had to learn how to help her to find whatever it is that she was good at the same time find what I used to be good at and whatever else new that I could discover about myself. So, like I said, I actually, when I realized that I had lost myself, I was actually going through a period of depression that I didn't know I was under. And, I was sleeping a lot. I was, I didn't realize I was depressed. I didn't know that at the time. I found out about mental health and all that recently, in the last few years. And looking back, I realized that was what I was going through. I was depressed about where I was and not realizing it. And so, by the grace of God, I was able to push through that. And like I said, after my husband passed, I had to push through that so that I can do what I needed to do for Sierra. So that's what I did. And that's when I started, I kind of started my business over. I tried to start it way back when. And, after I left corporate America, and, I just didn't have the drive back then. I don't know why, but I didn't. I think part of it was, even though I was married 25 years, my husband, great dad, and, loved him and everything. But I think I was trying to not outshine him. So I backed up a lot. I backed up because, PR can be very, you're hanging out with celebrities and you're doing all kind of wonderful things that some people don't, some people might not get. I don't know. But I think part of that was shrinking back from my quote unquote shine when my husband was alive. And so when I did that, I think I kind of did it, and I know I did a disservice to myself. And so I had to find that esteem again. And so, I did. Thank you, Lord. I did. And in so doing, like I said, that's when I started my radio show and, started, my PR stuff again. And I even decided I was going to start singing, something I've always wanted to do and have been always afraid to do it. And I said, why not? This is going to be a new period in my life to make some things happen. So that I never thought I could do before. And so I started singing. I started working on my CD, and we finally got it finished a couple of years ago. Writing songs and arranging and recording, producing, all the stuff that I didn't really have experience doing at all. But it was a blessing to me to be able to do that. I had a friend that I helped work with her CD, and I helped write songs for her and sing background for her. And and she said, "Why don't you do your own?" And I said, "I could never do that." But I had to. It was such a fear. Again, feel the fear and do it anyway. That you have to have self-esteem and enough self-confidence in yourself to be able to do things that you've never thought you were able to do before. And that singing was a big part of that for me. And so, you know, now it's one of my favorite things to do. It brings me joy, and it definitely makes me feel like I can do just about anything. It's like you can sing in public, you can do anything, in my opinion. But anyway, but that was part of that growth thing. That was part of my experience. And, you know, feeling good about yourself and what you're accomplishing and what you're pushing towards, that's all part of the process, in my opinion. And working around Sierra, and Sierra's full care, by the way. I mean, I have to take care of everything for her. She, you know, her hygiene, her toileting, all that stuff. I have to do all of that. You know, giving her baths, dressing her. She can pick out what she wants to wear. She's got a lot of clothes, but I have to do it all. She can feed herself. She can help make sandwiches and, you know, little things like that. But primarily, she's full care, and so so I work around all of that. So I structure my day so I can work around all of that. Whether I'm, you know, trying to build my various businesses, I say quote unquote because I have more than one. I'm a Capricorn, so we do more than one thing. I'm also West Indian, and that's just reality. That's who we are. And people keep telling me you have so much energy. I don't know if it's energy or if it's my mom who was the same type of person. You know, we do what we have to do when we have to do it. And we don't let too much get in the way. Like I said, when I was going through that depressed period, I was still doing things. I just wasn't happy about it. I was still trying to push towards certain types of goals, but I was doing it half-heartedly. And so I've learned to push. I've learned to think of myself in a better frame of mind than I did back then. I've learned to love myself more than I did back then. And so, and that's really what it comes from, is loving yourself enough and to do what you need to do to take care of yourself better. And I'm going to go into a little bit about that in the next slide, because part of the challenge in my late 40s, I actually ended up with epilepsy myself because I was not taking very good care of myself. And I guess I was holding a lot of stuff in, and it manifested itself in epilepsy. And so by the grace of God, I'm no longer on medication for that, but from, I think, I don't know, 44 to about 54. No, it wasn't even that 44, but it was 48 to about 54. I was on medication for epilepsy. And, you know, that came as a surprise too. So not only did I have a daughter with disabilities, I now had a disability. And so that, you know, that was something that I had to overcome. I couldn't drive for a few years. This is, you know, prior to my husband passing. I was able to drive after about 2 years. They let me get my license. You know, they had suspended my stuff until I could prove that I can drive without possible, you know, situations. So thank you, Lord, for that. Because I mean, I'm too active to not be able to get into my car and just go when I need to go. So that was a blessing. Next slide, please. So again, self-love is not selfish, it's critical. And that's where I learned how, again, to take care of myself. You know, I have to take time to rest, which is one of the reasons I took some time to go to Las Vegas and just rest. Take time to refresh, take time to renew, revitalize, reflect, and regroup. That's really important for parents like ourselves, because if we don't, you know, we push. That's just who we are, I think. And we put our children first and put ourselves last. Most parents do that anyway, but definitely parents of children with disabilities, we do that and we don't even think about it. And we have to do that. We have to take care of ourselves, because if we're not here, who do they have? And I you know, I always think about that, because as we get older, as I get older, you know, I have family members that I guess that would be good with Cece. Her older brother is definitely somebody who she loves and would be good. But there are not too many people, I gotta say, that could handle taking care of Cece. And so I have to take care of her. I have to make sure that I can be here as long as possible so that there's a continuity in the life that she's been able to live. And she's a very blessed young lady. She's been able to do things that her cousins who are fully capable, experience things that her cousins who are fully capable have not been able to do. And so, and it's all because because of the kind of work that I do, and because I don't like for her to miss anything. So I take her with me everywhere. And so she is, she's blessed. She's blessed and she's very happy. And somebody trying to tell me something because my phone is beeping me. But I'm thankful for that. That was the goal. That was the goal, was for her to be happy and to be blessed. And to hopefully, again, encourage other moms like myself to do the same for their children, to not give up on themselves, and to realize that whatever dreams that you may have, you can still go after them. It does take some thought, it does take some organization, it does take some support. Like I said, her caregivers have been a blessing to me. Once I found out that I can get respite, I took full advantage of it. I still do. You have to, because you need time away from the child sometimes. And and they like being around other people too, and she's very particular about who she lets into her circle. Sierra is not as friendly as I am, but she once she gets to know who you are, and then she doesn't mind hanging out with whomever. But the point is that that's an important thing. One of the challenges that I've noticed with families like ours is that, which is one of the reasons why I did my Mother's Day event, is because we don't talk about a lot of things that are challenging to us, that may be a little painful to us. We don't say anything. And like the whole reason about the Mother's Day event, the Exceptional Parents Celebration, was that Mother's Day, Sierra doesn't know it's Mother's Day. So she can't do the things that other children would do to celebrate their moms. And, realizing that I'm not the only mom like that, or probably feeling a little, as they say, some kind of way about it. That's why I put on that event. And we've been doing it for about 7 years now. And to kind of encourage mothers and fathers too, because they deal with the same thing. We tend to focus on the moms, but fathers do the same thing. There are a lot of great dads out there who are making sure that they, they're there for their children. And so that's what that event's about. It was starting off as an event for mothers, but it turned into an event for parents, both mothers and fathers. But that's why I decided to do it, because I wanted to make sure that we encourage other parents like myself and let them know that they're not alone, and that people recognize that this is a sensitive time. It's Mother's Day, graduation, yeah, they get to go to school a little longer than some other typical children. They're in high school until they're 21 or 22. And they get to go to graduations, but it's still not the same thing. And so, part of that is why I did that, to sensitize people to understand that, back then when she graduated from high school, they forgot to put her name on the t-shirt everybody got, or I raised hell. I was like, excuse me? I don't think so. Her name has to be on that t-shirt like everybody else's. So you have to do it all over again. Period. So things like that, that's what I had to do. And so it's always a constant fight that we tend to do, but I'm one of those people who believe that it's an assignment. Not everybody can handle this. And I'm always amazed that God thought that I could. But, it is something that I'm thankful that he gave me the opportunity to use whatever gifts and talents and skills I have to make a difference in this area. And so, every now and then I have to start thinking about myself and how I, need to get rest, or, need to be by myself so I can think. I do a lot of walking. Well, I walk every day, at least, 3 miles. And that helps a lot. That helps quite a lot. That's when I'm, talking to God and just decompressing and getting exercise in. And so taking that time to go to the spa and get a massage, and every now and then. I just started doing that actually last year. I started doing the massage thing. I love it. Every month, it's something that works for me, and it definitely helps me to stay in that space of healthy, feeling healthy about myself. I love how I feel when I come out of getting a massage, and maintaining that mental wellness. That's all part of it. The physical exercise, the mental exercise. Just taking time to breathe and to reconnect with the spiritual self. All those things helped me in managing the process of caring for Sierra all these years. And I'm very thankful that I'm physically somebody who doesn't have a lot of issues that I know of, other than what I dealt with the epilepsy and all that. I'm not someone who has a lot of health issues, by the grace of God. So, and neither is Sierra. That does help a lot. She's not. I have a lot of friends whose children are in the hospital very often. They're medically fragile, and that's a lot on them as the parents. And so I try to, when they tell us, and a lot of times they don't. Again, one of my girlfriends right now, her daughter is medically fragile, and her daughter was in the hospital for pneumonia for over a week now. She didn't say anything. So another friend had to tell us. And so now I have to check in to make sure. So what do you need? Or what do you need? What can I help you with? Because she doesn't say anything. We tend to do that. We hold it all in, and we try to become super people, super women, and and super dads. And sometimes you just have to let people know, I'm in pain, I need help. And we tend not to do that. We don't ask for help. I know that's what I do. I tend not to ask for help. That's not a good thing. Whether it's from a professional standpoint, whether it's from my business or personal, I try to do it for myself. That's something I got from my mother. And so I don't know how not to do that. I'm getting better at it, but it's still not something that's simple for me. It's asking for help. So, I'm trying to do better, but you have to ask for help when you need it. And you have to be able to let people in, to let them know that, I'm not feeling strong today. I'm feeling a little, not myself, whatever that is. That's not easy to do, to let yourself be vulnerable. But hopefully you have enough people in your circle that you can trust, that you can talk to and say, look, can I talk to you about something? Can I share something? I'm feeling this kind of way. Because one of the things that it bothers me when I read, parents of children with disabilities and they abuse them, that bothers me, because you're under a lot of pressure anyway. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you may hurt your child. And some people, because they're not grounded, I'm grounded spiritually. I'm grounded in so many ways, but not everybody is. And so the children suffer, unfortunately. And that's something that we have to try to avoid. I've read so many stories that broke my heart about the mom, taking herself out as well as her child, because all the parents doing things like that, because they couldn't handle all that was involved. And that's such a scary thing. And that's where the network and the peer groups and the things like that, that's what I'm saying, is things are still falling through the cracks that shouldn't be, with all these organizations that are out here to quote unquote support. And so there's so much to be done. But that's part of why I believe my little assignment is to, at least if I know about something, to share that information so that people can do something about it. So next slide, please.
Norma, while we're transitioning to the next slide, we have about 7 to 8 more minutes.
Okay. We're about finished. We only have a couple more.
Great.
Yeah, so then you can ask questions or whatever. So basically, bringing your dreams to life. That's what I did when I brought my music back. When I wrote my book, one of my books is called The Elected Lady, Finding Victory in the Challenge. And that actually was therapeutic for me. It was about being the mother of a child with disabilities. And I also interviewed 4 other moms dealing with the same thing. And one woman who actually was born with a disability. She actually was an executive at the time with the GCDD, the Governor's Council of Developmental Disabilities. She was an executive there. She was an inspiration to me in that she was married twice and had a typical child, and was living her life. And she had cerebral palsy. She was a wheelchair user. She really, she couldn't use her hands very well. But the woman was married twice and had a typical child. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I included her in the book. I also included one mom who was the mother of a high school buddy of mine, whose daughter was a typical child, but was graduating from high school at 18, and she got, had a brain tumor, and so she passed out. She was a valedictorian that year, but she passed out. That's how they found out she had a brain tumor. So again, disabilities, you don't have to be born with one. It could just happen. She was in a coma for 8 years before she passed, actually. But I interviewed the mom because I wanted to get her perspective on how she dealt with that. Her daughter was 18 at this point. It was a typical, very smart, doing everything, but that life happens. And so, ask yourself, in bringing your dreams to life, who were you before you had a child with a disability? What have you always wanted to do? What kind of support and resources will you need to do it? And then make yourself a plan and get organized and just do it, which is all the things that I did. And it's not easy, but it is definitely something that'll be worth it. And so you just make it happen. Next slide, please. And so these are all the things that I'm doing now. A radio show. I just started a magazine online, this Disabilities podcast, Disability World TV show. My books. I have one more coming out this year called Just Do It, which is accompanied to my song on my CD called Just Do It, dealing with the issue of procrastination. And then give yourself permission to fly. And that's what it is. You have to give yourself permission to be who you are authentically supposed to be. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know who that was until I was about 50. And so now that I know, and now that I'm, a little older, I'm 62, I'm definitely on that path of being who I am supposed to be. Whatever time I have left, whatever this next chapter of my life is all about, I am going to make the best chapter of my life so that Sierra can have the best chapter of her life. So I'm 30 years older than she is. And, like I said, we do everything together. And she's enjoying herself. She's modeling. She is she's part of the Fashion by Day. She called Unlimited Models, and Sharon Gary Dill is one of my caregivers, but she's also a good friend and a fashion designer. And so Sierra's been part of a lot of her fashion shows, and she loves it. She loves being on the runway and puts on her Zoolander face, and she does her thing. And so those kind of things is by finding. She loves music, so whenever somebody's singing, she wants to be front and center. And so that's what we do. We just find things that she enjoys and make them happen. And, and it works for us. But the thing is if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to be able to be happy, or the child will feel that, and it'll impact them too. So give yourself permission to fly so that your children can fly. And I think the last slide is one more slide, I think. And that's just my contact information. Oh yeah, here we go. How to tap into your unstoppable. Remember that you're awesome. Don't let typical parents get you down. Sometimes typical parents can say things that they don't mean, but they're trying to help, but they just don't listen to them. Listen, just don't let them bother you. Give yourself, like I had to do. Trust your instincts. And beware of the Superwoman, Superman syndrome. Get the help that you need. Keep a sense of humor at all times. Take care of yourself. Realize that you are not alone. Don't lose your identity, and understand you're much stronger than you think, which is all the things that I found out about myself. And so that's what's helping me to tap into my unstoppable. And so I think the last slide is the one that has my contact information. And so, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Norma, that was amazing. So helpful. Um, I see that, and I guess it's pronounced LJ, has a question in the chat, and she asks, are you organizing a support group for parents slash caregivers and their children slash adults with disabilities? Is that something you're looking into doing or interested in doing, or maybe know of an organization that you can suggest?
Well, there are a bunch of organizations out there. What I have done is I have a page on Facebook called Coffee Community and Conversations that, we used to do some events at my church, and hoping we'll be able to start doing them again, where we're bringing information, to the community to discuss some of these topics again that are important to families like ourselves, caregivers like ourselves. Um, you know, I have not thought of starting my own little organization because there are some good ones out there, and I'll be glad to share that with LJ or whoever may need that information. But my goal is to really just make sure the information gets in front of people. So through the coffee community conversations, and through my radio shows and TV shows, and telling the stories that need to be told about this community that typical media just tends not to focus on because they don't know, it's not their lives. So because I'm in the midst of it, and I know so many people in the midst of it, I want to make sure that information gets shared.
Norma, you coffee
Community and conversations.
and conversations is on Facebook, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm writing that in the chat because someone asked for the link, so I'm just putting coffee community and
conversations.
Sorry, I'll write that again. Coffee community and conversations.
Yes. And we were doing events every quarter, and I'm going to start them up again. Hopefully they'll be in person, but it might be virtual. As we get started up again. But yeah, we're going to be doing some more things like that, because part of the challenge, again, because we tend not to ask for help, is that sometimes you put these things on and not a lot of people show up. But we were doing it. We had some great events a couple of years ago, before COVID, of course. But the thing is, you just have to keep going. A lot of people stop, because they don't think that people care, or they're doing it, or they're getting their head against the wall for the community they're trying to help. You can't stop because there's so many people who still need help. So you just keep going, and that's what I've been doing.
Well, I have some questions, but I want to ask anyone to just kind of chime in. Either you can raise your hand, and you can, or just kind of chime in or jump in, unmute yourselves and come on, or ask your questions in the chat. We can do either way. But in the meantime, Norma, you said that. Tell me this: how? Let me see. What my question? How? For parents who are not as outgoing as you, or who are not as eloquent writers as you, how do they speak up, speak out? How do they make change? Yes, for their own child, especially, but I don't know that people would have been as bold as you to write a letter or demand that the school, put their child's name on the tube. So how does a person who's not as outgoing and maybe not as eloquent of as a writer make that, kind of do what you've done?
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to, because I didn't know, I just did it because I was so angry. The anger gets to you and makes you do things like, excuse me, that's not going to happen. So if you're angry enough, or if you're, it becomes a very passionate issue with you, you're going to find a way to make people know that that's not acceptable. And I became an activist as a result of that. So I started going to, when they did the lobbying, with the no child left behind, unlock the waiting lists, and all those kind of things. I would go down to the Capitol and lobby for all of that with organizations like it used to be called AADD, Atlanta Alliance of Development of Disabilities. I was one of their volunteers, so I would go down there and do that. Between January and March, whenever the session was happening. You learn how to become an advocate for your child and for yourself. So that's part of it. And whatever it is you're feeling, write it down on paper, and don't even try to edit it. Just send it in that way. Go talk to your senators. Go talk to the people who go talk to media. Call media up and tell them, look, this is what's happening in my community. This is what's happening that I see that needs to change. And find a couple of reporters who you see covers those kinds of stories, and email them, because you can find their email on their network's channel, and email them and let them know, I need somebody to cover this. I need somebody to help me share this information. It doesn't always happen automatically, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes, they're looking for a good story. They'll reach out to you.
Well, I've got one more question. I'm definitely, anybody else chime in. You mentioned therapy for Sierra, and I thought you mentioned therapy for yourself. Did you go through therapy too, or was just Sierra?
Just Sierra.
Just Sierra. Okay.
Yeah. No, I did not go through therapy. I didn't know I was depressed. And this might sound strange, but after my husband died, it's like I woke up. It's the strangest thing. It's like a new me just came out. It's the strange, I don't understand it, but it was a new beginning. And so that totally changed my whole outlook on life at that point. And again, I was sick. But I was excited about life again. I was excited about, and like I said, I love my husband. We had a great marriage. There were some issues, but nothing that was something we could handle. But the point is that I realized that life was short, because he died suddenly. I mean, he had just turned 50, and 2 months later, he was gone, 3 weeks after our 25th anniversary. Oh. He had a heart attack. And that showed me that life is short and we have to maximize every moment. And, so that's where I've been for the last 12 years. It's like, I'm trying to maximize whatever is left. And I'm hoping, my mom lived to 90, so I'm hoping to at least live that long.
Well, awesome. Are there any other questions? Because if not, then Norma, thank you so very much. This has been phenomenal. We appreciate you, and we appreciate those that are on the call with us. And if no one has raised their hand or says anything, then this has been phenomenal. We thank you, everybody, and we thank you, Norma, for sharing your experience. And my girl, whoop, you just look, you just going. And to be able to hear your story in this platform has been very eye opening, and I appreciate you. One, being on the board of SHOWAbility, being our publicist, public relations expert. I was looking for, extraordinaire. And also just want to applaud you in all that you're doing with your books, with your singing career, with your speaking career, which is your newest thing that and we're so very proud of you. And so thank you so very much. We appreciate you. And if there are no further questions, then we're just going to say thanks for being a part of our masterclass and leading our masterclass.
Thank you for all joining. We appreciate you guys coming on tonight.